Welcome back to another episode of Am I Doing This Wrong? You're here with the same gals, new topic. Always a breath of fresh air to be here.
I know. I was waiting for the all right. I kind of miss it.
Now I've gotten away from like, all right, radio DJ, and you want me to go right back into it, Morgan.
I know. I'm indecisive.
That's my trait. I'm the Libra.
That's true. You are the Libra. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll say it 20 times in this episode, so I'll get my fill.
Yeah, exactly. Also, we could also just cut that out. Like, have we never thought about the fact that we do edit videos? We could just like cut out the all right.
Usually it goes right into something else. It's a little bit more difficult than you would think.
You know what? Morgan is the edit queen over here, so I'm just going to let her have that.
Don't put that kind of pressure on me. Just no all rights. Never mind. Take them all out. Just don't say them. I don't know. My editing skills are not, I'm not an expert at anything, including editing. So there we go.
Hey, great segue, by the way. Just a reminder, we are not experts, doctors, anything of the sort. We barely know what's on our research, and, it's a lot of bullshit out there on random topics. So let's just put that out there right now.
Yeah, no, 100% true.
But checking in, how are you doing?
I'm good, wasn't great. I had a good talk with my therapist about it. Just kind of down, not really feeling it. I have a lot going on. I think the stress isn't helping. So I just kind of got to that point where I was like, I don't want to do anything, you're just so overwhelmed. And so you just kind of shut down and don't really want to do much. Mm-hmm. But there are things to be done. So I had a good talk with her, and we kind of came up with a game plan. So that's helpful. I have a little bit of homework. I got my 2020 planner. Ryann loves a planner, so she's very excited. It has stickers. She loves that.
Just checking all the boxes.
All your favorite things. So I've been trying to use that as much as possible just to kind of keep everything organized. Mm-hmm. Like I try and keep everything in my head, and then that's not great, right? Like,
no, it's not. Yeah. I don't know if I've asked you, because I do, but do you journal? Has your therapist recommended that you journal?
She hasn't recommended it, but I do journal occasionally. It's not something I do consistently.
Fair.
So I should do that too.
Right.
But I don't know. I've explained this on the podcast. I have a pretty big affinity for notebooks. I want like a different notebook for every little thing I do. So when I get a new notebook, I'm like, oh, should I write in this? Should I not? Should I write? It's so dumb. Just write in the notebook. What are you going to do with that? What are you going to do?
This is...
I do have specific notebooks for different things.
Right.
So some is for writing for like journaling purposes. Some is for writing for other, if I'm trying to be creative. So I probably have, I don't want to say the number. It's embarrassing.
Oh, give the number. The people want the number.
If I had to ballpark it, I'd say I probably have 15 to 20. Like looking around right now, yeah, it's pretty. I know. I love the environment. I love trees. I'm sorry.
No. No, I just want to point out that I'm more shocked about your notebook number than the body count episode. I'm like, 15 notebooks. How could you?
I know.
Where's the purity, Morgan? No, I'm just kidding.
What can I say?
Not here.
Around.
Yeah. But would you like to ask me how I'm doing? Or is this just a one-woman show?
I guess that would be, yeah, I know. And now more about Morgan. Just kidding. How are you?
Oh, me?
I'm surprised.
Right. Thought the day would never come.
You asked how many notebooks. You asked a follow-up question.
You're right. I'm doing okay. I put myself through self-inflicted bullshit this week. I just decided like, hey, Ryann, how about you just work a lot, even though the reason that you got out of the job you were doing was to not work a lot. So you know what? I'm learning balance. And I knew this was going to happen because Morgan can attest to this. If I, quit a job or something, which I've quit in the past, like, not to the extent that this was like a career, but whatever, I've quit jobs in the past. And I'm like immediately on the hunt for something new, right? I'm like, okay, that means like I got like hours to fill, and I become like this crazed person on LinkedIn. But this is the perfect time to like learn moderation. And I also had a really good therapy session last week. And I am like constantly learning. Yeah, I finally have homework. I'm like finally kind of opening up with my therapist, being honest with myself about some things. I don't think if I wasn't in therapy, I would have never been able to quit the job because I would have been in denial. I was editing one of our old YouTube videos and I was just like, oh my gosh, like I am like trying to convince myself so hard that what I'm doing is right, and that like what the choices I made were like good. And I get it. I was just like coping. That was my coping mechanism. Like if I say it enough, I'll believe it. But I wasn't believing it. I'm like looking at myself while editing and I'm like, bitch, you don't believe this. Like,
you can see like the pain behind your eyes.
Literally, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much denial here. But you know what? I'm not blaming myself for it. I'm just saying it was real to see it. And I appreciate this podcast so much more because this is going to be a progression of our lives. Like we're literally documenting our lives here. This is basically keeping up with the Kardashians. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, but the reality is just like, I'm like looking back, it's basically, you know what I mean? Much more substance, but I'll just say that. But I'm just saying the point is just like, I realized like, wow, we're actually documenting our growth or decline, like as it comes, it's going to come in waves. And, but I'm appreciative of it. Yep, that's a word. And anyway, so yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm figuring it out. And I got it wrong, but I'm trying to get some things on track, so yeah, that's pretty much what's going on with me. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I mean, you just are kind of built to work, right? And like that brings a lot of security. And so to step away from that like construct that you're so used to is really difficult.
Yeah.
Like I work a lot right now, but I feel that pressure to do it outside of the time that I'm expected to work. Yeah. It's hard for me to kind of separate the two. And that's gotten me in trouble in the past. I've gotten like burnt out at previous jobs. And so I am trying to be mindful of that. So I get where you're coming from, And it's nice to feel busy and feel productive, but you do deserve time to yourself as well.
Exactly. And this was one of the things that my therapist told me. She was like, you need to block out times in the day where you have nothing to do. She was like, because it's going to feel very odd for you at first when you're in between your jobs or you're in between your freelance clients, you're going to feel like this is usually time that I'm working. Like, what am I supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
But it's not. You don't need to fill it. She was like, so you need to actively, like in your planner, write out, okay, from, 12 to 5 p.m., there is nothing there for a reason, right? And whether that means I go watch my favorite show or I, pay a bill online or I go to the grocery store, like whatever it is that I need to do, it doesn't need to fill up that entire time. It just needs to be time for you.
Yeah.
And that is like when she said it, I was like, oh, right. Of course, like, I'm taking notes in my notebook, like a very good therapy student, But in reality, I'm so glad that I like wrote it down and tried to remember it because it's really hard to like do. I'm like, but I have time and like, you're not supposed to have time in the middle of the day. Like I can't FaceTime with Morgan because she's fucking working.
I know Ryann calls me so much and I could barely respond to her. She's just staring at my face while I'm like typing away.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay. I mean, it makes up for like an hour of that free time. So I'm like, well, I FaceTime for an hour. So, you know, productive.
Right.
You know?
You're like, I fit you in my block. I'm like, it's not my block. I gotta go.
I know. I'm a work in progress. No, but seriously.
But that's a good idea. I do really like that idea of blocking out time specifically.
Right. Yes.
I think that's smart.
It is. And I'm really going to try and work on that this next week. Because I have enough. I have enough and I am enough. And I am enough. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I'm enough.
You are.
Thank you. Which brings us to our topic. Am I actually enough?
Ooh, heavy questions this week.
Right? I know. But no, seriously, the topic is monogamy. The topic is monogamy. And I think when I like in my mind, when I think of the idea of monogamy, I do think about what I've heard in the past and my past experiences with hearing why people are in, you know, monogamous relationships. As it currently stands, I'm in a monogamous relationship. You know, me and my husband are in a monogamous relationship, but we're not closed off to the opportunity that somebody else may, you know, make their way into our bedroom every once in a while. But we also got together like a year and a half before COVID. And then we were like, oh, well, guess nobody's making it into our bed anytime soon.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if the amount of like swingers parties and just, what do they call that on like dating apps when you're looking for like a third? Does that have a name? You know, when it's like a couple looking for a third.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we're an open relationship looking for a third. They literally a lot of times
it just says
looking
like
for a third.
Looking for a third. Okay, yeah. Like, does that have a name?
Right.
Yeah, I wonder if that's really gone down because of COVID.
I think if you're in those circles, they just have like vaccination checks at the door. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like if you're really committed to the lifestyle, which we will talk about on our next episode, which is orgies. Yeah. So we'll talk about all those things. I literally had to keep like the topic so specific because I was like, we can't talk about everything else because that wouldn't be the topic of monogamy. So we are talking about specifically monogamy. Okay. And so I did just want to mention, you know what? No, I'll save that for, well, no, I want to mention it now. I want to mention this because me being a new person in this space, being like a freelancer, being a person that is trying to start her own business and like also trying to start, you know, other ventures with people, trying to get our podcast really off of the ground, you know, which it's thriving, but we're really trying to like, you know, become a little bit more expansive this year. Right. I did just want to mention the topic of imposter syndrome. This has been mentioned to me. We've talked about it a few times, but this idea has come up multiple times over the past few weeks. Speaking with a lot of people within the freelance space, right? Like having different like meetings and just being on different like calls and stuff with other people like on Zoom. This has come up in almost every meeting that I've been in within the past like week or so. Okay. Oh, wow. And the reason I want to mention it is because I feel like the amount of times I've heard it and the amount of times that I've been able to like reassure people that like you belong here and so do I, because I'm still struggling with like believing that I deserve to be in these spaces. Like, I just want to say that I really do feel like my mission and like my understanding of like my life goals is really changing right now, because I really do feel like a part of the reason that I'm like in a privileged space to be a freelancer and like set my own schedule is because I need time to like round up the other folks that feel this way and like make sure that people know like we all deserve to be here. Like we have just grown up in the culture and a society that has not really allowed us to like really be our true authentic selves 90% of the time, but we all do deserve that, you know? Yeah. And it's not only just for the few that like take a risk. Like you shouldn't have to risk your whole life to be whatever it is that you want to be, you know? You should be able to do it right now. So I just want to say, just like I've heard, you know, people have poured into me over the last few weeks. If you are a person that's thinking about doing something and you feel like you kind of like are on the outside looking in and you feel like, I don't know how to get involved in those spaces, just reach out and ask. Like, just reach out and ask. It doesn't have to be like this whole grandiose thing. You don't have to like go to like these crazy like networking events. You can, but like just start small. I heard like one of the terms that I really like, which is like network horizontally, network with people that are on your level. It doesn't always have to be networking vertically, right? With people that are above you or successful in your field, right? Like me and Morgan don't have to reach out to, Nicole Byers' podcast right now. I mean, we will be soon.
I mean, next week, it's on this. Yeah, it's in my notebook next week. But,
exactly. It's in her aspirations notebook.
Yeah.
But you can network horizontally and really find some like really good people around you to like nurture whatever you want to do. So I just wanted to mention that was on my list of like to-dos, and I'm glad that I said it. So
yeah, I love that. Yes. Thank and you. we have had many conversations about feeling that way, but that's a great reminder that there is enough room for everyone. So do it. Just do it. Just start.
Just do it.
One step in front of the other.
Right.
Like the end goal can seem so far and so daunting, but there are so many small things that you can do to get you there that it's just that in-between space where you can feel so lost.
Yes. Right. Exactly.
But just start. Just reach out.
Just start and reach out. And if it's even reaching out to us, we've done a thing now. Like we've done a thing,
we're doing a thing.
And we're doing a thing.
If you want to do a thing too, slide into our DMs.
Right. But if it's a sexual thing, wait for next week's episode.
Slide into our DM. Oh, wait, what?
I said, but if it's a sexual thing. If it's a sexual thing, just let us know also. We might be interested. You never know, right?
Right. I mean, I'm single and Ryan's in an open relationship. So, fair game. Fair game. Exactly.
All right. So let's go on ahead and get into our topic for this week. Monogamy is the topic. And so I do just want to start off with having like a basic understanding of what is monogamy, right? So that's the first topic that we're going to dive into, which I found a very basic, definition off of WebMD, because everybody trusts WebMD. Right.
I mean, they do. I just wouldn't go to WebMD for the definition of monogamy.
I mean, sexual health, right? So
I mean, yeah, but I'd go there if I like had like a weird bump somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but maybe it's because of monogamy. I mean, Morgan, they all. It all connects. I don't know.
Okay. Sure.
Sure.
What is it?
Yeah. So WebMD describes monogamy as the practice of forming romantic relationships with only one partner at a time, as opposed to having multiple partners at once. Okay. And so again, like romantic relationships can vary for everyone. What a relationship looks like to you or to, just the general public is relative, especially depending on where you grew up, what examples of monogamy you were given. And so for me, I think that's pretty general, right? Like one partner, not multiple, right?
Right.
Okay. So I also found an interesting statistic that the U.S. federal government and all 50 states require monogamous marriages. So I was under the impression that you could get married to multiple people in like some of the states in this country. Is that wrong?
Well, let's just say which state. Utah.
Okay, well.
Okay, so that's the thing. So what is it? Polygamy? Is that's okay, multiple marriages. So
right.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I knew that it was illegal to be a polygamist, but then I'm like, how are there shows on TLC like Sister Wives?
No, exactly.
Like,
well, I don't know. Well, I because I think it might be protected under like religious statutes, right? Like it's part of their religion. I don't know. Look, should I say it again?
You're not experts. Right. The federal government doesn't recognize anything in regards to religion, so.
I know, right? Yeah, let's not get into that. Yeah. Morgan. Well, that'll be a show for another day. Trust me. We have thoughts about that. But I just thought that was interesting because maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. And we'll have to like do a poll on this about how many people do also think that you can get married to multiple people, right? Like I thought that was a thing that was allowed. Maybe it was only Utah, or maybe it's not. I don't know. Sorry, people from Utah. But anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there. We'll have to come back to that in another episode. We'll see. Okay. So look forward to our Instagram poll on that. Okay, so so a little bit about that article, understanding monogamous relationships and other types. So it also mentioned that like just because it's a romantic relationship with one person, I was thinking just because it's a romantic relationship with one person, does that also mean that the sexual relationship is also monogamous? You know what I mean? Like, do you have to have a romantic monogamous relationship and a sexual monogamous relationship? Like, you know what I mean? Because those are two different things.
Right. And that's why I was thinking when they use romantic, that's also kind of a vague term. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just kind of a glazing over of the, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Of what the word means.
Okay. Right. Fair enough.
Because those things can be subjective.
Right. So, no, exactly. And that's what it says. So it mentions that, whatever people come into this union, have sex with each other and don't share this type of connection with anyone else. Okay. And they also go on to mention that historically, the majority of pre-industrial societies did not subscribe to this notion of monogamy. Before the industrialization and I guess colonization also of like a lot of countries, most cultures actually engaged in polygamy and like polyamorous relationships with multiple people, right? Having relations with multiple people and not necessarily needing it to be just one person that they were with.
It takes a village, you know. But that's interesting. Fair. Like, why is it only legal to only marry one person?
I don't know.
Like, I mean, we think it's like weird, but that's just because, I mean, I guess since the Industrial Revolution, we've only seen, couples of two people. So
I guess. I mean, I always thought that it was a little bit weird to only want to be with one person for the rest of your life. But that's because I grew up with 3 sisters and I was like, I don't even want to be in the room with like the 3 of them for that long. So like I should have options. You know what I mean? Like that was the point. Like if you didn't like one of my sisters at the time and I was like, I'm like beefing with her, I can go hang out with another one. And I feel like it's the same situation with sexual partners. I'm not always going to like you. So like, why can't I call up somebody else?
Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely am very open-minded. But I know that I didn't always think the way that I think now.
Fair.
So I think it's a lot of those like ideas we grew up with that are now being broken down, in 2022 and, the past few years. But yeah, I don't know. That's a good point. That's a good reason.
Well, then also it goes on to mention that 3% of mammals engage in monogamy. So like the overwhelming majority of mammals don't even believe in, but like don't even engage in monogamy. Like we are going against science. I had to mention that because it seems like we're going against science, and I'm all about science. So
yeah, so it's unnatural.
I mean,
monogamy.
I mean, yeah, Morgan, if it was up to me, I'd be walking around full bush, well conditioned.
Yeah.
We mentioned that,
Yeah. It's got a nice sheen.
It's got a nice sheen with, my 3 husbands, and maybe some of their wives want to come on to party, we're just hanging out. It doesn't have to be a sexual thing all the time. I mean, it's going to get there. We're here.
I mean, come on. They're going to be like, that doesn't have to be bush out all the time. How can we resist?
Yeah, but the bush is out, but the badge isn't. It's protected. That's the point.
Not from them. They're coming for you.
Consent, Morgan, is still at the forefront. Okay.
We talked about this. You want Joe standing outside the window, looking at you, conditioning your bush or whatever you're up to.
I mean, my blinds are open, so
they're always open. Close your blinds. So weird. That's weirder than monogamy. Close your
Oh
blinds.
my God.
People
Fair
can look
enough.
in your house.
I'm on the second floor. Nobody's looking in my house.
I don't like it.
Well, fair enough. If you ever came here, hey, there you go. Incentive. If you come to visit me, I will close my blinds. How about that? On to topic number 2. No, I'm just kidding. Also, that's mentioned in this article from WebMD is that most of what is tied up in the concept of monogamy is basically popular conceptions of romantic love. Like we talked about, what is a romantic relationship, right? How do you define that? And it's pretty much tied up into our culture as, quote unquote, finding the one, right? Finding that one person that completes you, or meeting your quote unquote other half, right? And so in consensually non-monogamous relationships, which I've never heard of this term, and we'll talk about this in a second. Okay. But in non-monogamous relationships, they may have more than one romantic or sexual relationship at a time. Okay. And so I was a little bit confused on this part because the way that they use the word may, like, I couldn't tell if they were using it as in it could be, like might be, or is it allowed? Like this person is allowed to date more, because, and I'll ask you like what you think about this, because to me, those are two very different things, right? Something that might happen or something that is allowed to happen. Because a lot of what monogamy seems like in our modern day culture is just control. Like it's okay if it's consensual, right? But the reality is like that the term itself is just a social construct anyway.
Yeah.
So it's really wrapped up in like being able to say, if we are in a monogamous relationship, that means that I am limiting this other person's, like by us being in a relationship, it's inherently limiting the other person and myself to only one partner, like one sexual or romantic partner. So what do you think? What do you think about that?
So I want to say it's controlling, but then I like try to think of myself in a relationship and I'm like, oh, you'd be the worst, Why
do you say that? Why?
Because I think there's like insecurities at play, right? Like, if you're making a commitment, it's probably more about the commitment to someone. So there's trust and respect, and it feels like those things can be broken. But I think if it's
you think they can, okay, so just to like talk about this a little bit more. So do you think that in non-monogamous relationships, there can't be trust and, consent and all the other things?
No. I do think there can be that. But I think with monogamy, it's just the two making that agreement. If there's more making that agreement, then those things are still true.
Okay.
So
this is interesting, and we'll probably have to come back to this topic because, again, it was really hard to focus the research on only monogamy.
Yeah.
Because now I just wanted to know more about polyamory, right? And polygamy, and what does that actually look like? Because this is a question I've had for couples that I've seen like on social media that are polyamorous. Like the people within the relationship, say we have 2 people, right? So 2 people are in this relationship, but one of these people is polyamorous, right? So this person, one person in the relationship has another partner, right? Does that inherently make their 2 partners polyamorous? You know what I mean? Like they might not be, they might be monogamous. They're like, no, I only want to be with one person. But they're with a person that is polyamorous. So does that make everyone in that they're engaged in a polyamorous relationship, but they themselves are actually monogamous, right? Like they're only with that one person.
Right.
So I agree. It takes a lot of more of like consent and agreeing to it. I think that it's like always like a work in progress, but I do think just like everything else, when I mention to people, I don't mention it to that many people, but I guess now I'm mentioning it to everyone. But when I mention to people that me and Ben, again, I don't mention it to that many people. Let's be real here. But when I do, if the opportunity arises that we talk about, our relationship, I do say like, yeah, we are married. And yes, like I am completely satisfied sexually and romantically with this person. But does that mean that I'm never going to get turned on by another person and or have feelings sexually for another person? No. Now, I do think it's going to be a lot harder for me to have romantic feelings for somebody else, just because the capacity just really isn't there. I'm not in the same spaces that I was as a single person, right? Like I'm not in single spaces like meeting, right? I'm not on any more apps, right?
Yeah.
And so, which is where we met, right? We met on an app. So I do think that a lot of times the sexual part and the romantic part get kind of jumbled up together in monogamous relationships because it's that one person. But in reality, those are two very different portions of your relationship. You can be sexual as fuck with someone, and that does not mean you are being romantic with them or having a like consensual relationship.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Again, we will talk about this more on the polyamorous, episode and the episode about orgies as well. But monogamy itself, I do agree with you. It makes it a little bit easier to kind of control the situation because you only have two parties agreeing on this thing, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. And so just to touch a little bit on the term non-monogamy, right? So that kind of refers to anything else, right? It's not just polyamory. It's just anything outside of this one person and this one person coming together. That's it. So they talk about, in this article, they talk about ethical non-monogamy, which I think kind of touches on what you a little bit said, which is it's a concept of using socially acceptable guidelines to build this relationship. Okay. So not cheating or acting without the consent of your partner. Right. So this is where, like, I understand what you're saying about like the trust being an issue and, it just takes a lot more of open communication. And if you know anything about any relationships, communication is key, but it's key because it's really hard. Like, it's not the easy part of the relationship. Like, to communicate your wants and your needs and communicate that honestly all the time is, I would say, honestly, it's a little bit impossible. What do you think? Do you think it's impossible or do you think it's possible to constantly
have good communication?
Have good, honest, open communication?
I don't think it's possible 100% of the time.
Okay.
With any relationship, your family, your friends, you and I have to explain extra to each other sometimes, even though it seems like we're on the same page. Like, no. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's possible to have 100%.
Right. I agree.
feel like you'd probably start stirring the pot at that point, right? You're like, let's keep things interesting. I'm just going to say something kind of off the wall. I'm going to say, you should say all right at the beginning of the episode. Just keep it interesting. Just keep things spicy.
I know. Look at Morgan and her mind games. No, I agree with you though. That's definitely a thing because nobody wants to be bored, right? Like, I'm not saying lie because you're bored. Like, that's weird.
But try it and see how it goes.
Well,
no.
I don't know if that's the hill
we said we're not experts. Don't take our advice.
I know, right? We're not experts. So lying as a form of keeping it interesting might be a thing for you. I don't know. I'm not here to kink shame, but
I wonder if that's a kink.
Lying?
There's so many.
Oh, there's so many. But anywho, I do think I agree with you. It's impossible to be to have open communication, honest open communication 100% of the time. Even when you think sometimes you're being honest, maybe in that moment to you were being honest, and then you think back on it and you're like, wow, I actually wasn't being honest. I was just like scared of their reaction. You know what I mean? So right. I agree. No, totally agree. And so I think that actually brings us to our second topic, which is, do you think monogamy is necessary for a quote unquote healthy relationship? Okay. So, or for what they, in the article I'm about to introduce, they talk about quote unquote better for relationships. So do you think monogamy is necessary for what we call a better relationship? And this kind of ties into the reality. That's one word, isn't it?
The reality. Yeah. Yes.
The reality of it all. But no, the reality of it all is that what a healthy relationship is, there might be a few kind of like cornerstones of a healthy relationship, right? Like communication. Don't.
Okay, fine.
I know I'm fucking up. It's my tongue. I don't know what to do with it. Open communication would definitely be like, part of a healthy relationship. Sure. Honesty, and anything else? I don't know. Sex? No, that doesn't have to be part of it.
No, but I think because we are talking in terms of like romantic relationships, but I think there are probably cornerstones for just all relationships.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like honesty, respect,
boundaries.
So I think that's
okay.
Just
and communication. There you go.
Communication.
Yeah. Honesty, respect, boundaries, and communication. Okay, fair. So that's what we'll kind of use as our, like the foundation for this conversation, because I think it's hard to, talk about anybody's type of healthy relationship, right? So some of the common arguments for why monogamy is quote unquote necessary, and this is from an article on mindbodygreen.com. So one of the main ones, and they really used this argument to kind of like support all of their arguments, and it basically just boiled down to, this is the article speaking, so just keep that in mind, is that it promotes gender equality only because most examples of polygamist societies are male dominated.
Okay, but not all.
Right, exactly. So
and I dare say there are single female couples that don't promote gender equality.
Wait, what do you mean single male?
I mean, just like one like, if we're just talking in like the very like generic heteronormative like example of this.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying one, like not single, like one male, one female.
Got it. Okay.
So I'm just saying.
No, that it's bullshit.
Take a look at history. Are we seeing gender equality across the board in
monogamy? Yeah, and in heteronormative relationships? No, exactly.
Right.
I agree. And that's literally why I wrote out, I was like, that shouldn't be a reason to limit your partners. Like, if you need to be in a monogamous relationship to promote gender equality within your relationship, chances are you actually don't believe in gender equality.
Yeah, and so maybe it's really literal. Maybe we're thinking like of gender equality overall. Maybe it's saying like
literal,
like
there's one of each of us.
Two women, yes, 2 women, 1 man. Therefore, you know what I mean?
Okay. Which
there's
again,
more women than men.
Right. Yeah. And I do always want to mention, the like I had to like look up specifically, as most people in marginalized communities know, I had to look up research specifically for like gay monogamy, right? Queer monogamy. Like, what does that look like? Because, but I think a problem or a part of why you have to look up like specifics for other groups is because monogamy, a lot of these like societal constructs that we have to talk about, they were built for heteronormative society, right?
Yeah.
Like people in other groups, like within the queer community that don't identify as, maybe assigned female at birth or assigned male at birth or cis or heteronormative standards, they don't have to really abide by any of this because they're already going against the entire grain of what our society is built on anyway. So it literally does not matter how this applies to queer people because none of these standards apply to queer people, right?
Right.
I'm
like
not
you
saying,
were saying like polygamy isn't legal, but if you are in a monogamous gay relationship, there's still many places that you cannot get married.
Right.
So
exactly. So it doesn't matter what kind of relationship you have. Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. So I just always like to throw that out there because again, we are limited with what research, what surveys, what data is out there and available for us to really look at and dive into, because honestly, a lot of the organizations that do some of this research come from a very heteronormative background, and they almost make sure to push out, all of the other identifying people out there. So we see you are valid, and most of this research is bullshit. It's just kind of fun to poke holes in it. So the next article that I'll get into is basically why monogamy. So why do so many people, why is, the overwhelming majority of of the world. It's actually not just, you know, a US phenomena. Like
Right.
around the world, most cultures now subscribe to some form of monogamy as their go-to like default.
Yeah.
And so it was in the National Library of Medicine. There was an article published, and it was basically talking about why we lean towards monogamy. And so it says that it is relative, right? It's subjective, relative certainty of access to the partner's reproductive potential. So basically saying that we've kind of evolved this way, that because we live in a very male dominated society who, you know, mostly males, you know, set the tone of what our society looks like, that having access to limiting their partner and how much they could reproduce is just another form of control, right? It's just another way to make sure that they control what this world ends up looking like and how it kind of, you know, how they repopulate the world, whatever, right? And so it says, I'll just kind of sum up, but it says like our tendency towards social monogamy has evolved. However, it is subject to strong reinforcement by cultural factors, particularly religion, right? Which is, you know, this, right? That's why a lot of the polygamy examples we have come from a religious background, a religious backing, right? Well, it's within our religion to have 7 wives. That's why we do it, right? It has nothing to do with me being a child predator and wanting to prey on 12-year-old girls. It's all about what's in this Bible that was written way back when, right? And translated over 90 million times, but whatever. And so as a result, in a number of cultures, monogamy is the predominant mating system. However, most cultures, about 85%, are polygamic. So polygamic, that's a word. That's fun. Okay. That's fun to say.
Polygamic.
Yeah. So for humans, it's the best evolutionary strategy. So it says for humans, the best evolutionary strategy is monogamy when necessary, polygamy when possible. Yeah, what do you think about that?
Okay.
Yeah, take it in. Let it settle in your...
I mean, maybe it is good that we've put kind of some boundaries on it. Like, we would probably be way overpopulated.
Ooh.
You know, we already have a lot of people that we can't take care of on this planet. Like,
that's so fucking true.
You know what I mean? So maybe that's good. But
well, so we just had a really interesting discussion. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Do you have more?
No. Go ahead.
So we just had an interesting discussion about paid time off. Remember, we were talking about that and how in some companies here in the US, which is wild, don't have a limit on how much time off you have, paid time off, right?
Right.
And so my first reaction, being hella colonized in this country, I'm like, whoa, that's wild. Like people just take it off weeks and months and shit. That's crazy, right? But Morgan, you know, brought me back down to earth and she was like, well, no, you can't just like take off all the time. It just means
you can't just be off like 2 weeks every month. That's not what they mean. Unlimited sounds really nice, but that's not what it is.
Right. No, exactly. Right. And that's a good point, because then I realized you still have to get it like approved, right? You still have to go through the proper like process.
Mm-hmm.
But taking out the number or the limitation actually, like, it just takes the stress off of it, right? Because you don't have to worry about having the time. Like it's there. It doesn't matter. It's unlimited. There's no cap on it. And in reality, that makes most sense, because otherwise you will have people that will save up all their PTO or paid time off and then use it at the end of the year when it's like the blackout time, right? When people need to be working. Because so it totally makes sense, because that's what happens a lot, like within the educational field, right? All of like the teachers with seniority who have been working there and have tenure or whatever, they'll take off like all the holidays, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if they didn't have to like save up all their time, they'd probably just take like a few days at a time, you know, instead of always having to like get it all together, because it's just the control of it, right? Like if you control it, just like with abortions, right? If you're saying that women can't do these things and they have to, you know, only work within this certain framework, you're it's like a breeding ground for problems. Like you're just creating problems where there doesn't need to be any, right? So I really liked that point. I wanted to bring up what you mentioned, because that it totally makes sense in this. Like, I do agree, like overpopulation could be an issue, But if we also didn't have like some of the horrible like policies in place with like limiting what women can do with their bodies, I just don't think that it would be so much of an issue, right? Because women wouldn't feel the need to let every fertilized egg be born, right? Like, because that's not the reality anyway. Most, not all women are fertile, right? Not all women with uteruses and, like vaginas are going to pop out babies. That's just not like the way the world works. So I do agree with you. It could be an issue, but I also think that like social constructs hurt more, like in our present day, they end up hurting more than they help.
Right. And we are like we don't really have the same worry as like other mammals as far as our like survival. I mean, climate change, but nobody's paying attention to that. But like, we don't have the same kind of fear of extinction. I don't even know if they are aware of extinction, but if we're comparing to other mammals, then, they're mating left and right just to like get what they can out to like keep it going. Like, I think we're good.
Yeah.
I
think we're good. And also, there's only like a few different types of mammals that actually have sex for pleasure. Like I think dolphins do. And like something else, like cats or something else. There's like another, or wait, are they animals or mammals? Wait,
all right, everyone typing into your
fuck.
Google.
Yeah, it's like they're
what animals have sex for pleasure. Make sure
Yeah.
you don't share your Chrome with anyone. They're gonna be like, what are you looking up?
They're like, I don't know, I was just listening to this podcast. Please listen. But yeah, so yeah, I agree. Like we are the most developed species, right? So we're gonna have like thoughts about like the future and all those things. But what the fuck ever. I just think it's controlling and I don't like it. So that's Ryann. That's my last thought.
Period. Next topic.
Right. Moving on. So yeah, we've pretty much already covered this, but I do want to mention it. So is monogamy natural, right? And so we do know that it's a social construct. There's nothing biologically that says, like our parts only fit one person. It's not a jigsaw puzzle where it's
oh my God, could you imagine though if it was?
This was my thought. I was
and then you have to go find that person that fits.
I know.
Wow.
I mean, the odds are just not in our favor, though. I mean, like Dwight said it best on The Office. He was like, there's billions of people, and most of them are in Asia. So, like, the numbers just really don't match up here.
Right.
But no, I thought about that. I was like, damn, that'd be wild if like no penises fit. Like they were just all like penises just had like some like weird like jigsaw like contraption, and like.
But with the drive that people have to have sex, like
the motivation.
Oh my God. Like oh my God, everyone would just be trying to stick it in each other all the time, and it wouldn't work. Could you imagine the stress and anxiety?
We develop like that would have been the first surgery for sure. Like what can we do to fill in to round off these curves? Because we got to figure it out.
Round off the edges. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that would be vaginal reconstruction would be just the surgery. Like nobody would give a fuck about like their nose.
Right. It would be like
crow's feet. It would be vaginal reconstruction and dick fixing. I don't know, whatever the fuck you call that.
Yeah, I know. Much less fancy of a term. Yeah. It would be like when you're born. It would just be like, what do I cannot think of the
like
term.
When men are uncut?
What do you what is what is that called?
That little foreskin?
Not foreskin. What is the procedure called to remove it when you're a baby?
Oh,
why can't I think it?
Circumcision.
Okay. Yes.
Circumcision.
Nice. Oh my gosh, I could not think of it. Yeah, it would just be like.
Yeah, that. I know, exactly. Yeah. And so going back, is it natural? So I found an Australian survey finds that less than a third of gay men, because again, I wanted to find some information about someone other than boring straight people. Yeah. And so, so an Australian survey finds that less than a third of gay men have committed relationships with one partner. Okay. So I used this not because I love the statistic, but because my question is this the only information we have about this topic because we don't consider cheating a valid form of committed relationships?
Because we don't consider cheating a valid form of relationships.
No. Like when we talk about polyamorous relationships, which is what this article is like basically like talking about, right? Gay men in Australia tend to not have committed relationships with one partner. They're alluding to polyamory, right? But they're not comparing it to straight people who have other relationships outside of their monogamous one, but we just consider it cheating, right? I'm just interested. I'm not saying this is correct. I'm just saying, do we not talk about this information because cis het people tend to like have monogamous relationships, right? And then not talk about whether or not they have other relationships outside of that.
Right. Extramarital ongoings.
Exactly. So
that's a good point, because it could be seen as the same thing and yet it's classified so differently. That's a really good point.
Yeah, exactly. So doing the Lord's work. But so then this led me down, the road of how many people cheat, right? And so I found an article on regain.us. And this was actually published in 2021 by a woman or a person by the name of Karina Horn. And then it said it was medically reviewed by another person, which I was like, so does that mean it's like more valid? I don't know. I didn't get it because I was like, I don't know what that means. So it was medically reviewed too. So if that gives me like more status, like, yeah, medical review.
Take it.
We'll take it. Exactly. And so in 2021, she released this article, which basically said that national surveys show, and this is back in the US. So national surveys show that 15% of women and 25% of men have cheated on their spouses.
Okay. On their spouses.
So in their monogamous relationship, they've cheated. Okay. And the article starts with, so that's the statistic, but the article starts with this. Although almost everyone knows someone who has cheated or has been cheated on. So that's how the article starts. So just think about like that statistic and if it actually matches up. If everyone in the US knows someone that has cheated on their partner, right? Or knows someone that's been cheated on, how is it that only 15% of women and 25% of men have cheated on their partners? That doesn't make sense.
Because they were lying.
Exactly. Exactly. That's my point, is that straight people are fucking lying. Y'all are motherfucking liars. Half of y'all aren't even straight.
This is their kink.
Believe it.
The straight kink. Full circle.
Gross.
There you go.
Straight kink. Yeah. And men's kinks is control. It's all bullshit. I hate it all. And no, that's exactly what I was thinking. Like, so much of the research that me and Morgan do for this show, we talk about taboo topics, right? Talking about or like questioning monogamy, right? Like that's taboo. Talking about masturbation, that's taboo. Like talking about body count, right? Like all these things are taboo. So when we look for research, we really have to like delve into articles that actually even want to talk about this, because you can find so many articles that say, is monogamy good? What are the health benefits? Like, is it healthier for you? Does it lead to less stress? Like, and all that shit is like just
right. How to keep your man yours? Like, yeah,
exactly. How to remain spicy in the bedroom? Again, I am a spicy ass bitch, but if Ben in that other room wants oregano, I don't have oregano. Okay, maybe I never learned how to be oregano. And he just might need to find somebody that's a little bit more oregano forward. You know what I mean? And that's okay. Like, I don't want to fulfill every one of his fantasies. He's way more into butt stuff than I'm into it, I mean, but that's okay. Like, I mean, I like it. You know this story. We'll have to get into that on another episode. I like it enough.
Yeah, tune in for our butt stuff episode.
Yes. No, I like it, but I'm just saying, like, I don't want to try and be all of the things for him. I don't want to try and change who I am or like be more mysterious because I want to like keep this person happy for the rest of my life. If there is somebody else out there that can do it better than me, and trust me, I've seen porn. There are a lot of people out there that can do it better than me. I'm okay as long as we don't have to pay for it. I mean, I'm just cheap. It's not like out of like reason or anything. I just don't want to ever have to pay for it. But if it's within reason, like, why not fucking do it? Like, enjoy your life. Like, don't be confined to a monogamous relationship because our society says that this is like somehow better. Like, it just might actually not be better.
Right. And I think like the butt stuff could be a big insecurity, right? But if you take that pressure out of the situation and you guys have open communication, then it doesn't become such a quote unquote issue for you, right? It's something to explore. And now that you have talked about it, and now that you are open-minded, if he were to find someone who loves butt stuff, I mean, I don't know what good or not good at butt stuff means.
We'll talk about that.
In this, yeah. Tune into our Patreon. How to be good at butt stuff.
I mean, it is.
There's in this capacity, I mean. So
right.
If you find someone who's good and you're open to that could just be one more, positive in your relationship.
Exactly. It doesn't
it's all
mean
perspective.
Right. It's all perspective. Exactly. It means, you'll read articles online, that are focused toward women, right? That are marketed toward us. That'll tell you that in so many, like, they'll tell you without telling you that you're not enough, right? And that if your man is bored, or if whoever your partner is bored, it's because you haven't done enough, right? It's because, or you've given up too much, right? And you don't have enough hidden about yourself that he can't uncover you like a fucking treasure map in like the next 5 years of your or whatever 50 years of your relationship. That's
right.
Impossible.
If someone finds out something like totally wild about you like 50 years down the line, you might feel like, I didn't know you at all. This might not be like the best. Like, gotta keep the mystery alive, like I have a secret life where I'm like a Russian spy and my name's Natasha, and who knows? I mean, that could be sexy. Play that out. Maybe that's sexy, but like, you know what I'm saying? You're like, I thought I knew everything about you. You know how much I like butt stuff. Like, I thought I shared all my secrets, So I don't know.
Yeah,
mystery
exactly.
Might not be the best.
True. I mean, it would be impressive if Ben was like secretly training to be a Russian spy on the weekends, like when I was gone out of town. I mean, I'd be pretty impressed. I'd be like, I don't think we're like living the life of luxury.
Maybe that's not the best example, because that kind of feels like exciting and fun. Maybe they'll take you on like a mission, what I mean?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Maybe it should be something more a little
more practical. Like maybe he plants community gardens on the weekend, and I found that out in like a year. But also too, I'd want to be in on that. So I don't know.
I know that's like a nice thing. You're like a secretly like amazingly nice person. He's just going around like eating like all of your like leftovers, not leaving you anything, but really he's just like so generous and kind-hearted. He's just been keeping that from you. He's like, oh, I wanted to surprise you with that like down the line. So that's why I eat all the cookies and never save you any.
Oh my gosh. Morgan knows my relationship, you guys. It's okay. That was one of my New Year's resolutions, was to share. So I really need to stop fucking complaining about it and be happy that I'm like sticking to a resolution for once in my life.
That's okay. Yeah.
It's
you
true.
Can still complain.
I mean, I will. It's not going to stop anything. Which leads us to our last topic, which is, are we doing this wrong? So me and my co-host have, had different types of relationships, right? And again, romantic relationships, sexual relationships. Honestly, I feel like this could apply to the dating realm as well, because like dating exclusively is a thing also, right? Like before you quote unquote put a label on it, right? Like people do decide, hey, I'm not, being sexually active with anyone else. I want to let you know that. And that's kind of like your first step, I feel like, into a relationship, right? And so I have a few questions, and I want you to tell me if you feel like, have you adopted this for yourself? Have you applied some of these societal standards on yourself incorrectly, or, for no reason? So, okay. So the first one is, have we adopted this social construct ourselves? So do you feel like throughout your life, you have subscribed to this idea of monogamy as something that need to be followed?
Yes, I don't think I practiced it. As I've mentioned in other episodes, I've been a single lady for a long time. Um, but I do think I put a lot of pressure on myself to find someone, right? Find someone, find that one person, find someone. So yes, in that capacity, I do think I've subscribed to it.
For sure. I think I've used monogamy as an excuse as to why I like to mask my jealousy. Not in my current relationship, thankfully. But before I really knew what I actually wanted, I think when I was trying to convince myself when I was younger that I wanted a relationship and that I wanted to be monogamous, I think I used that as an excuse to, mask my jealousy. And like when I would meet people, whether we were like, just like sexual partners and we were just like, meeting up, or if we were in a relationship, I think that, if there was any sign of like them being interested in other people or like wanting to move on from me, I think I definitely kind of use this as like we're exclusive, right? Like I've definitely said that with like the head roll and everything, I feel like I've said
the whole motion.
Yeah, that felt familiar. But no, I've definitely done this wrong. I've used the social construct to my benefit or to my advantage, even when I don't think I actually wanted to be in a monogamous relationship. I just think that I didn't know who I was, and I was like really like insecure and therefore jealous, right? And jealousy is irrational. It doesn't make sense all the time. A lot of times you're jealous of things that literally don't even apply to you. Like you'll see some guy like, doing something cool in some random country and you're like, why isn't my life cool? And I'm like, bitch, you're afraid of heights. You wouldn't even get up there if you wanted to. Like,
you're never going to skydive. What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. I want to see all of the islands. No, I don't actually. It freaks me the fuck out. Like, nope, don't want to do that. So fair enough. So yes, we've done that wrong. Number 2, have we imposed this tradition upon everyone we date? So do you think that you've always had this idea for every single person that you've dated and or had any type of exclusive? No? Okay.
If I think about my history, no.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of it is like hookups and one night stands. So there was never like the commitment aspect of it. So I wasn't putting that expectation out there.
Okay.
So no, I don't think I have. I feel like it's been on post, like being single for quite a while. I have to kind of like explain myself like, oh, like you're the third wheel, or like, oh, Morgan, like the plus ones just kind of stop being like assumed, So, but I'm fine with that, and like I said, I think I was putting a lot of that pressure on myself to find someone because of like that social pressure. And I'm just not ready for that. I am still figuring out a lot of things for myself. And so, no, I haven't done it.
Yeah. Same. I haven't done it in every situation. I would say I've done it in most situations though. I definitely in my younger years felt like ownership, or wanted to feel more control in my relationships that I had with other people. I think in part it was just, I was young, which is why I just wish that we had a more serious like sex education, because I was just like, I was like combining sex with relationships and it just wasn't actually meant to be combined yet. Like I just wanted to have sexual experiences, but I thought that I was like devaluing myself if I didn't get in a relationship with these people. Right. And so I think I was trying to put that on a lot of most relationships, but I don't think in my heart of hearts, like in reality, I don't think I really wanted to put that on everything. I think it was just convenient for what it was at the time.
Right. The associations were there though. That's stuff you have to break down as you learn.
Yes.
Right.
Fair enough.
Like I definitely felt like jealousy and ownership over people I had crushes on when I was younger. Like, that high school crush, you're like a crazy person. So,
oh my God, so true.
Like I know that I've done like banana shit. If there was like, if like the guy I had a crush on in high school was listening to this, he'd be like, she's lying. White straight girl lying. Like there she is getting her rocks off to her kink over here, just lying her ass off. This bitch is,
Oh my God, that's so That's so true. And you know what? Fair enough. Like I said earlier in the art or in the, discussion, like you might not be lying to yourself in the moment. I think that sometimes you do actually convince yourself of lies. But you also just don't know what you don't know yet. And we were young and naive, and we just actually didn't know these things yet. So fair enough. We did it wrong then, but looking back on it, it was all that we had.
Right. It's all that we had. And who's to say 10 years from now we'll listen to this conversation and be like, oh, you sound like a bunch of idiots. What are we talking about?
I mean, I think that right now. So
oh.
I mean, it's okay. I'm leaning into it. I'm happy where we are.
That's true. I mean, we named it. Yeah. We named it this for a reason. So lean in.
Lean into the wrong. And with that, I just want to leave us with a few final thoughts. I think the most important when you're trying to decide for yourself if a monogamous relationship is right for you, or if it's something that you've just fallen into because of our society. The most important thing is just being open and honest about wanting open relationships in our modern day society is completely up to you. And if you would like to, try out something new, that's fine. Like you're completely entitled to trying it out. But the open and being open and being honest about it is going to get you the farthest with what you actually want. Now, you might not end up with the person that you expected to have that situation with, but you cannot expect the person, your partner, whatever, to be okay with that just because you are. Because let's be real, most people still want to live within the confines of our society. Most people do not actually want to go against the grain. And it's not to say that everyone is just sheep. I don't really love that term. I just think that it's a lot easier of a life if you just do things the way they are, Right. It's not easy, like bearing our soul for this podcast all the time, but at the same time, I don't want an easy life, right? Like me and Morgan have made that very clear. If anyone knows our history, they know that we've never made things easy for ourselves.
Never, not one goddamn time.
Exactly. So enjoy your life, but question things. If you've ever had thoughts to yourself that you didn't want to be in a monogamous relationship, chances are you're not the only one that has thought those things. Look it up on the internet. Turn your safety blockers off.
Yeah.
And open up yourself to the dark web. But other than that, any final thoughts that you'd like to add, Morgan?
I was just thinking, like, could I be in a polyamorous relationship? Like, maybe, never say never, right? I'm not writing anything off at this point, but I don't even know if I want to be in like a monogamous relationship. I like, I like my free time. I like my own space.
She likes her vibrator.
I do like my, no, you know what? I think I need an upgrade, but that's for another episode. We'll talk about it later. Send me your recommendations. But it's just a lot to handle. Like maybe they went monogamous because they're like, okay, how many people, like how many personalities can we really have? Like if you're the government and you're making a law, if you're saying things are legal and not illegal, they're like, how much can we keep contained? 2. Max 2. That's the law. Write it down.
No, that's maybe literally,
that's, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's literally how laws.
It's a lot to handle. Like I'm annoying. I'm a lot to handle. So if I'm in a relationship, okay, you can only bring one more in here because the pot's almost full. You better be dull as fuck because Morgan's just, the lid won't fit.
The lid won't fit. You know what? Fuck the lid. We're falling out the lid. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Falling out the pot.
Falling out the pot. That's great.
But who knows? Never say never to anything. Open-minded. That's what we do here.
In the words of Justin Bieber, never say never. And and that's how we conclude this episode. Before we leave, though, as always, I want to give a big shout out to our interpreters tonight, Mel and Darla, for joining us. This has been such a fun experience. Thank you, Mel, for joining the podcast for the first time. Hope to see you back. And if you are not following us on Instagram, please do so at Wrong the Podcast. We also have our Twitter. It's there, we're getting there. Hopefully by the time this comes out, it'll be a little bit more present. But also, if you are joining us for the visual conversation, thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us out, and we are really trying to get that going. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you all in the next episode.
See you then. Bye.
Bye.